nothingwire.com, and today we have Canon's latest entry level, the EOS 1200D. It's also known as the Rebel T5 in US and some other market, and then also very cheesy Kiss X70 in Japan. So it's known by all these three names in different markets. Now 1200D is an upgrade of almost 3 years old 1100D. It comes in with some improvement both in terms of the ergonomics and body and also in terms of features. Now the kit we have is like the most expensive one, where you have the body plus the 18 to 55 mm IS2 lens and plus the 55 to 250 mm IS2 lens. Again, there you can see it says kit lens. You also get the body, you also get the camera with the 1855 mm lens, and you also get in various combinations in various markets. So the price for this one generally is say on Amazon.in, it's with both the kit lenses, it's about 31,538 Indian rupees, and on Amazon.com it's about $699. We did not find it on Amazon.co.uk, both this kit. With a single kit in India it's about 26,750, in US it's about $499, and in the UK it's about £325. The body only, we didn't find the body only on Amazon.in, and in US it's about $420, and in the UK it's about $299.98. So due to both the kit lens, you can see it's a fairly big and very heavy box. So there your cameras and all stuff, they say that's how it looks. You also get an 8GB card, I'm gonna show you, and then some quick specs here. 18 megapixel CMOS sensor, the age-old one, same CMOS sensor that's been running for I don't know how many models now, up to ISO 6400. It also on ISO burst goes up till 12,800, and 4x3. Also get a wide screen, by the way, and 3-inch LCD, non-touchscreen, non-articulated. Then you have UF movie full HD 30 fps, then your 3 frame rate per second in burst mode maximum, and then auto intelligent scene mode. Let us see some important marketing information and stuff. I already told you. So this is the black model. Yeah, nothing much, all those software informations and stuff. So I'm gonna quickly show you what's inside, and we managed to just hold the review kit together. So first you get the warranty card there, and then you get an invitation to a free complimentary Canon photography tutorial. I mean, it's a classroom course. So basically they're gonna tell you how good the Canon kits are and everything, one complimentary class, and probably they would hope that you would start buying their lenses and other kits, and it also probably is gonna start paying for their other classes. You get the software kits, that's one, that's another one, and then that's still another one, and then you also get some good guides. So first you get the camera manual. Make sure you read this if you're a beginner, for which this camera mainly is, and then you also get some nice colorful tutorial booklet. So Canon has done a good thing. They've provided a lot of kit tutorial along with mobile apps, because the 1200D is mainly targeted at beginners which want their camera to be the first camera, and they straight away move to the DSLR. So that's the body. It's a pretty tough body, really. You know, it's very hard, rugged plastic on top of aluminum chassis. So we're gonna come back to that later. You have the external battery charger, the power cord. You have, that's the battery, it's the LPE10 battery, 860 mAh. And then you have solder strap there, then your data cable, and then at last we have both the kit lenses. So that's your 18-55mm kit lens, and then here you'll have your the other kit lens, the zoom one. So it goes from 55 till 250. Both have the second version of image stabilization. Yeah, so those are all the things that are in the packet. The 1200D has a very clean, nice and thoughtfully designed body. Now you have a magnesium chassis inside, and then on top it's mostly plastic. It's also partially weather sealing. Now it's certainly not as rugged as some of the mid-range devices like the 70D or such, or 7D maybe, but then this certainly looks rugged enough, and it in fact feels and holds slightly better than the 1100D. At the same time, this guy becomes slightly less in weight, slightly lighter than its predecessor. In fact, this also feels and looks better than the 100D. The 100D kind of looks very cheap, and this one actually looks pretty good for this price point. Quite rugged nicely. You have this nice rubber patches at places where you would hold the camera, and this hold is amazing. It's much better than the 1100D. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the controls and buttons and stuff. So on the front side, say that's a camera cap, and you have the mirror there, sensor, and then your lens contact points. Let's see, your lens release button here. That's your shutter release button, autofocus assist lamp, nice rubber holder that I showed you, your mic, and then that's the branding. And then just besides the mic you have speakers there, and then your sensor mark. You have your accessory hot shoe, the flash here that will be triggered by this button, your shooting mode dial that does not in fact rotate 360 degree. You can rotate from here till here, but does not go. You'll have to come back to here. So the shooting dial has your usual MATP mode, and it also has an intelligent auto mode and some other usual mode like your without flash auto mode, and then some other filter stuff, and then also the video mode. You need to switch to this mode for the video to be enabled. And then your power lever, then one command dial, the lone command dial, and then your eyelets for your lanyard. This side, that's pretty much nothing. On this side you have the port, so no external mic port, no headphone jack. You have this for remote, and then your data transfer, and then the HDMI port. Then behind you see you have the 3-inch LCD screen. You cannot rotate it, cannot flip it, nothing. It's a fixed LCD screen, and would have liked it to be at least a rotatable, at least flippable, maybe 180 degree, because that's a very good thing for the beginners. The beginners probably would like to take selfies, or they would like to be able to use this camera in various conditions, holding in various positions. And in today's date where selfies are so important, rotating, articulating screen would have been very, very useful. Of course, that would have raised the cost a bit, but still. So behind there you have your iCup 95% viewfinder on top of the LCD, your dedicated video button, the diopter settings, and then the usual Canon buttons all around there. See, there's not much to talk about here. All are basically self-explanatory, and if you've been using a Canon device for long, or you just go through the manuals, you would know what all these do. And I don't want to explain all this single out every one of them, because that's going to take a lot of time. That's a CPU indicator light, and then below you have your tripod mount, the battery compartment, and then the SD card slot. Maybe the SD card slot could have been situated here, because this space goes waste. So that's your 860 mAh LPE 10 battery. So this guy promises about 500 shots in ideal condition. The 1100D promised about 700 shots, so that's one thing that's lower on this model. But apart from that, the 1200D almost increases most of the major features over the 1100D. You have a very slightly bigger sensor. You have much more resolution in this 18 megapixel compared to the 12.2 megapixel. You also have a much wider ISO range. So this guy starts from 100 and goes up to 6400, but then you have an H mode, high mode, that will that will act like your ISO burst and will take your ISO to 12,800. But we don't recommend this anyway. We're gonna tell you how that performs. Whereas the 1100D only is to support till 6400. Now the video mode can record at full HD 30 FPS, unlike the only HD mode in the 1100D. So those are pretty much the major feature upgrades over the 1100D. As you can see, though most of those are incremental, there is no such feature on the 1200D that is particularly new to the Canon series of cameras. But the 1200D is certainly much more matured than the 1100D when it originally came. Now that's the body only weighs about 480 without the lenses, including the battery. You get this 18 to 55 mm EFS lens, image stabilization 2 version 2. It also supports macro. Now EFS means that it's only made for cropped Canon cameras. So if it's EF, then it's made for the full frame. So you can see autofocus manual, focus toggle button, and your stabilizer, zoom ring, and suppose, and then your focus control ring here. Very nice rear cap, very nice rugged rear cap, as well as equal good quality of the front cap. As see, EFS 18 to 55. The focal range, the aperture range starts from 1/3.5 till 5.6. So at 55 mm you'd only get 5.6 maximum aperture. IS2, it takes a filter of the size of 58 mm. So apart from that, you can also get it the 55 to 250. It's a much slower lens. I'll tell you what, the aperture starts from there, see, 4 till 5.6. so at 55 you can shoot at 4, which is quite decent. 250 at a 5.6, which is also quite decent under enough light, but then at low light this lens becomes pretty slow. But it also not that costly. So IS2, again it takes 58 mm, same filters, you see, EFS lens again, not the EF. I see autofocus, same kind of design that the 1855 has. It also supports macro. Yeah, so these two lenses, a pretty good combination for a beginner, with the 1200D, because you basically get the normal zoom lens, which is 18 to 55, and it also then covers 55 to 250. So basically you have 18 to 250 in your hands, which mostly covers almost all the required everyday and even some of the challenging areas, like some of the mammal wildlife shots and stuff. You cannot of course shoot birds, or so you cannot of course shoot probably mountains if it requires too wide a lens, but then these two should suffice you for maximum percentage of your shot selections. Well, now I'm going to switch this guy on and we'll check out the layout one. So I'm in the P mode. So there you see the program auto exposure mode. I'm going to first give you a tour of the shooting mode dial here. So that's a shutter priority, aperture priority, and full manual mode. When you go this side, you get to that same intelligent auto mode, which is kind of a total point and shoot mode, and then your flash off auto mode, creative auto mode, and then portrait, landscape, close-up, sports, and some other thing. And that's switch to your video mode. Automatically your live view mode becomes active, and the moment you press this, that started your video recording. You see that this small red dot means it's now recording. Press it again. So you'll have to move to that particular point for a video to start. Also, it's quite good. I'm not in a burst mode, but as you can see, it's quite fast. So it supports 3 FPS burst mode if I select the burst mode here. That is, so when I go to continuous, yeah, so it can click about 6 raw pictures and about 50 odd JPEG picture at one go. That's the buffer size. 3 FPS is well okay for a beginner's camera, but then the competitor offers more. For example, the D3300 from Nikon, which is priced almost similar, can go up to 5 FPS. So they say that's the information. You can toggle the display, switch the display off here. You can also simply move to the live view mode here, and then you can click the photo from here also. Autofocus hunt a bit. Yeah. See, I'm halfway and the autofocus hunts a bit under low light. So the autofocus in live view mode is not as good as when you look through the viewfinder, because that's a face detection. Through live view, it's a contrast detection autofocus. So contrast detection autofocus is generally much slower than the face detection. So you can simply press Q and go to any of these to edit those. For example, you can go to ISO and then you can toggle them. You can press Q again, or you can probably set this here, press Q again. That's it. So this AV button in AM mode will let you change the aperture, yeah, and when you leave it, you can change the shutter speed with this button. Apart from that, you can straight away go to your ISO and then autofocus or the AI servo or one shot and things, and then as I showed you, your drive mode and then your white balance settings, yeah, auto exposure lock, also your autofocus point selector. So this is automatic. The moment you press any of these, this one, it becomes manual. So you can select the autofocus points here. You see, you can also press this and press it again for it to become automatic selection. That's the playback button, and in the playback mode you can delete with this, you can zoom out with this till 9 image, and then you can zoom in with this. So some of those usual options. So let's go to menu and show you some of the items. I'm not going to show you all because that's going to take very long. So this obviously supports both RAW as well as JPEG, as well as RAW plus JPEG. And then some other settings here. Auto lighting optimizer, it's brilliant in this camera. You have the usual 3 metering modes, white balance, picture style and all, ISO auto, RC max 6400, and then live view shot, autofocus method, flexi zone, live mode and quick mode, grid, aspect ratio. Those are some of the playback settings, then histograms, and then we come to your system settings, then your menu setting. That's the menu setting. So the 1200D kind of lay out the UI as well as the buttons very cleanly and very in such a way that it becomes very easy for a beginner. It's very small learning curve. Everything is big, everything is clean, properly laid out. They're not messy, they are not, you do not have to hunt for any particular feature. They all are pretty self-explanatory, which is probably the most important feature when you're a beginner, when you're jumping onto a DSLR, because the DSLR itself sounds so intimidating. You ought to make that, you ought to like kind of try to soothe down the user, and this guy is perfect for that. Now 1200D is, I think, very perfect for a beginner. Let's talk about the performance of the 1200D now. The system of the 1200D is quite breezy, comfortable, and most importantly has a very small learning curve to operate and does not lag at any time. We would have loved a touchscreen which would have made the switching between options a bit easier. Also, a rotating or tilting screen would have made shooting at various angles easier and more comfortable, like for example take selfies. The 3 FPS actually gives 3 FPS, which is fine for most of the cases, and it would suffice for day-to-day life, but not of course for fast moving objects or in case of sports. The 9-point autofocus system has only one crosshair type, and that's the middle one. It locks just fine along with others fine-tuning when you're shooting under enough light. Under low light, however, it struggles a bit, and as a result the autofocus is little slow. So make sure you generally lock the subject with your center crosshair type autofocus as much as you can. This translates to the continuous autofocus tracking mode as well. So even the continuous tracking mode is kind of like a little cheesy. One sad thing is that the live view mode does not track autofocus at all, and while clicking stills is possible since you can first lock the focus, video recording a moving subject is impossible to keep locked. You need to keep pressing the shutter release button, which is like not a feasible option while shooting a moving subject like maybe a dog running around or your kid running around, for example. The still quality under enough light has decent details and proper saturation and hue rendering. The JPEGs, however, tend to be slightly on the softer side, maybe due to the DZIC4 processor. Under low light, the 1200D actually performs better than what we have expected from an entry-level DSLR. ISO sensitivity is decent and is much better than the 1100D. You can get perfectly printable image at ISO 1600, and 32 and 6400 are kind of pretty decently web uploadable. However, due to the old DZIC4 processor, again, you can't stress the camera too far, it kind of starts showing some artifacts. There are no highlight clipping, much to our relief. Dynamic range is also very good. The videos do not have any fuzziness, but again appear to be slightly on the softer side. The AF does not work in this mode, so you'll have to half press the shutter release button every time you change the focus. The video mode also does not support continuous autofocusing, as I mentioned before. So let's first talk about the good and bad of this device. The good things is that it's very easy and ideal for a beginner. It starts everything almost as the zero level. At the basic level, the UI is very clean, but layouts are very clean, easy to understand. There's not much a learning curve. It also, by the way, comes with a companion app which kind of teaches the basic of shooting and tests you on some basic GK, but then that app is not available on all market. For example, it's not available on Play Store in India. It's only available in the UK and Europe. I suppose that's a bad thing. So however, this whole package is made for beginners, and Canon has succeeded in that, we believe. Number two is that it feels much better than the 1100D, and it also thankfully upgrades on all of the major features. However, there are a few bad things, which number one is that it retains the very old DZIC 4 processor. At least it could have moved to DZIC 5, if not DZIC 6. Then number two is it does not have a tilted screen. But then the biggest and the worst of them for me is the inability to continuously autofocus during video recording. Now that's a very bad feature. They at least should have had that. That's very, very important, and that actually would have also made it a great video camera, because it has a great ISO range, 100 to almost 12,800, and in this kit you got both the lenses, and so that made it a really, really good video camera. It has continuous autofocus, but that's only for still during video recording. As I showed you, it does not have that autofocus mode, so you'll have to actually press this to focus. That's a bad thing. The 1200D has lots of competitions. In fact, it's one of the most fiercest competition space. This 30 to 35,000. You have most of the entry-level DSLRs. You have most of the entry-level mirrorless cameras. You have many premium high zoom cameras. You also have some very, very good point and shoot cameras like the RX100, for example. The RX100 number one now comes for about 28,000. You get some high zoom cameras like the Sony HX300, for example, Nikon P600. You also get some entry-level mirrorless like the 3N, for example. Then again, you have the K500 from Pentax. But then biggest competitor to this would be the Nikon D3300, which number one does not have a low pass filter. That's one of the biggest advantage. This guy has a low pass filter that might not mean much to a beginner, mind you, but as an expert you would know that that low pass filter, if used well, will give much sharper images. Number two is that more frame rate on the D3300, and in general we've seen that the images are slightly sharper, although the dynamic range of both the cameras matches amazingly. So D3300 has more feature than the 1200D, but then there is a difference which actually works for the Canon 1200D. Now, if I'm looking for an entry-level DSLR, I have two reasons. Number one, I am a total beginner, so probably this is the first camera. Number two, I'm probably looking for my second camera, or I'm on a tight budget. Now,